Love and light, everybody. Um, whew, it's been a journey to get to this day. And most of the time when we do these public notices or public uh, uh, uh,
Announcements.
announcements, you guys don't get first wind of it until we're ready to do it. So when we're ready to do it, we just do it naturally. So I want to just sit back for a minute, and I'm gonna let everybody else do their work that they need to do, because this is about all of us and my position as the matriarch and head of state. So I'm going to be quiet so that I can bring Jaguar on to introduce everybody, or I don't know how you guys want to do this. So I'm a yield.
Greetings, everyone. Love and light.
Never mind, sister. How you doing?
So, what you guys don't know that you are about to experience is actually history in the making. We've been for a long time working behind the scenes, just trying to put everything in place in what this moment right now in time represents, which is putting out the notice regarding the reclamation of everything that has been taken from us, uh, not in a negative sense, not in an antagonistic sense, not in an aggressive sense, but with nobility, humility, and grace. And so, for those of you who have family and friends, if you can reach out, take the link, share it with your family and friends, they'll get to experience what this moment right now represents. The fact that you're here live with us and what you're about to experience. Myself, Jaguar Sun Bay, Chief Pontiac, and Carbon Star are here to support Empress, Her Majesty Empress Shaka Rare Bird Nagrat, and what it is for her to take the position in which she was born to do. You've heard for her on many separate occasions, just the introduction of what it was to obtain various types of documents, what those documents have meant. Some of you believe it, some of you don't. But nevertheless, right here, this is the moment when we're putting the world on notice of what it is for her to take her position in this moment in history and do the reclamation of the territories and the nation state for the greater Turtle Island. And so with that said, we're going to be reading what has been entitled the Preamble, the Declaration, and Notice for Accord. Also, we're going to express the trust. The trust is one of the most important component as it relates to how this nation will move forward and the basis of what the trust means, since pretty much everything that we see that's out there today operates in trust. And so with that said, we're going to start off by reading the Declaration and Notice for Accord. And Chief Pontiac has some exciting information as always. He's always throwing these bombs out at us, but he has some exciting information, just keeping us abreast of everything that's going on. He has his ears to the ground constantly. He has his ears to the spirits. He has his ears in spirit to the great wisdom that comes from above. And he's been assisting Empress for a long time on this journey. Myself and Chief Carbon Star are here also as supporters. And one of my roles specifically is as a Consular General. I consult Empress on various matters, along with a host of others that she works with. And with that said, I yield. We ready?
Yes, we're ready. So Chief Pontiac, um, I think he wanted to, do his part
Yeah,
first, and then we read the accords.
Mhm.
that's correct.
Okay, so let me pull your stuff up.
While you doing that, Empress, um, I have to start by saying notice the agent, notice the principal. If any part of the corporation is put on notice, the entire corporation is put on notice. If any individual in the corporation is put on notice, the entire corporation is put on notice. The public notice from this um, discussion is primarily for the information and the awareness being sent out to all of the clans that we follow the process of our oral traditions. And we're going to go into grandfather clause, ex post facto law, and we're going to go in telling you what these things mean. But we're going to start with showing you where to look to see that they've surrendered if we followed our oral tradition. So the first part, you see we are right here, the United Nations Declarations on the Rights of Indigenous People. I took several screenshots and sent them to Empress, and we're going to start by reading those so that y'all, and pointing out key points that most people would miss in order for y'all to be aware that we following a very specific legal format of tribal origin, not of corporate origin of the United States government, which was an interim government. It's not our government. It was the government during the time of an ongoing 500-year protracted struggle or war that was initiated by the arrival of one Christopher Columbus in our history books. Then the war has concluded, but the rightful heirs now have to bring the war chief to the peace chief in order to turn the corporate fictions over to the tribal jurisdictional authority. As a war chief, being heritable are the responsibilities of the Ottawa war chief, Chief Pontiac, coming from you out of Pontiac, Mission currently, but being born in Cook County Hospital in Chicago, Illinois. The tribal systems in the oral tradition has what's called a remedy for the fraud. All fraud vitiates all contracts. The contracts that we were under fraudulent pretense. Mm-hmm. So we're gonna go to I'm gonna point out what we're talking about as we go through these documents. But this is to make sure that y'all see the receipts so y'all can understand exactly what's taking place now and what this significance of this. I have to report this to the Empress because she is the peace chief. I'm a war chief. The war is concluded, so the jurisdiction has to be publicly handed over to the peace chief in front of all of the clans, mm-hmm, so that they know we followed the tribal procedures to the letter to reclaim the land. So, Empress, if I bring up something and you think we need a receipt, you can have your assistant pull it up to put on the screen if necessary. Other than that, we're going to go over the documents we have in front of us.
Okay. So I'm
All
going
right,
to the
so
next.
Yeah. Okay, can you enlarge it?
Yes, I can. And those of you all who are on TikTok and you really want to know what's on my screen, you need to go over to the YouTube channel so you can see what we're showing, or either you can go back to the YouTube channel tonight and watch it and see what I have on the screen. Of course, if you can hear us pretty well, can you just let us know by just saying yes, you can hear Chief Pontiac well enough just to hear? So if you guys on TikTok will let me know that, that will be great. They say they can hear you. So
Okay.
you can go ahead and proceed.
You got to adjust
I will.
the document.
I will.
So this is Article 32 of the Indigenous Rights Act of the United Nations. I have to make this perfectly clear at the onset. Neither me nor Empress wrote any of these documents that we produce. In the oral tradition, we have to find where somebody that's using a written format has written the thing that we are doing using the oral tradition. So you have a frame of reference as to the actions being taken. Is that the biggest you can get it, Empress?
Well, no, I just wanted to make
I
sure
can't,
that,
it's real small on my screen, so I can't read it.
okay, so
Okay, now scroll up to the top. Enlarge and scroll up to the
I
top, but
got you.
start at the top.
There you go. Can you see that good now?
Yep. Okay, Article 32 begin. Indigenous peoples have the right to determine and develop priorities and strategies for the development or use of their lands or territories and other resources. Section 2 states, states shall consult and cooperate in good faith, which they've never done, with the indigenous peoples concerned throughout their own representative institutions. Being the institution we coming through right now is the Shalagi Cherokee Nation headed by Empress Redbird. In order to obtain their free and informed consent prior to the approval of any project affecting their lands or territories and other resources, particularly in connection with the development, utilization, and exploitation of mineral, water, and other resources, right? So they telling us that they are surrendering our jurisdiction for us to exercise, and that any of these corporate fictions that's masquerading as government is obligated to comply because the tribal jurisdiction is the superior jurisdiction on tribal land. So they letting you know right here. Section 3, states shall provide effective mechanisms for just and fair redress for any such activities, and appropriate measures shall be taken to mitigate adverse environmental, economic, social, cultural, and spiritual impacts. Right? Now, this is where it gets important and y'all have to pay attention. Article 33, master number, not a coincidence. Indigenous people have the right to determine their own identity or membership in accordance with their customs and traditions. This does not impair the right of indigenous individual to obtain citizenship of the states in which they live. Part 2, indigenous people have the right to determine the structure and to select the membership of their institutions in accordance with their own procedures, right? So this is them surrendering to us our right to determine our own destiny, but we have to follow certain processes. Next page, Empress. This is Article 31. Article 31 say indigenous people have the right to maintain, control, protect, and develop their cultural heritage, traditional knowledge, and traditional cultural expressions, as well as the manifestation of their sciences, technologies, cultures, including human and genetic resources, seeds, medicine, knowledge of the properties of fauna and flora, oral traditions, that's important, literatures, design, sports, and traditional games and visual performing arts. Now, the oral tradition is what we've been following for the last 5 years in what's called the tribal redemption process, right? It says they also have the right to maintain, control, protect, and develop their intellectual property over such cultural heritage, traditional knowledge, which is the knowledge of self, the tribal understanding that there's more than one tribe. We don't always agree on everything, but we all agree on one thing: to follow the great law.
Mm-hmm.
And we all agree to restore the matriarchy. Those are the two common denominators. We only needed to agree on one. There is no tribe that rejected the reinstitution of the tribes going back to the Great Law, and not one tribe interjected and objected to the restoration of the tribal mothers as the lawgivers and the tribal fathers as the enforcers of that law, right? So we grandfathering in now, and they're telling us by us following our actual tribal customs and tradition, we can reclaim what's ours. They already surrendered in these documents. Let's continue, Empress. It said they also had a right to maintain, control, protect, develop their intellectual property over such cultural heritage. We already read that. And part 2 says, can you scroll down a little bit more?
Mm-hmm.
In conjunction with indigenous peoples, states shall take effective measure to recognize and protect the exercise of these rights. In this case, when they say in state, they mean in the sense of a country state, like the state of Israel, right? Or the state of Bosnia, but it's still a country, it's still a sovereign body. And this is for us to be aware that the constitutionally organized government is obligated to follow the customs of the people of the land over the tradition of foreign agencies operating in admiralty and maritime. Let's go to the next page, Empress. Article 13. This is important because 13 is the Queen Mother's seal, the Queen Mother's seat, which is the mother of the king, which is Big Mama, which is the grand matriarch of the land. And so Article 13 starts off, indigenous people have the right to revitalize. Remember that, that's important. Use, develop, and transmit to future generations their histories, languages, oral traditions, philosophies, writing systems, and literatures, and to designate and retain their own names for communities, places, and persons. This is important that I show you this, Empress, because I told you that we're going to have to make brand new lines of demarcation when we move the corporation from the jurisdictional position of power. And to be aware of that, meaning that some of the tribes are going to rename these major metropolises after the old name that they was, but some of them are going to rename them with a brand new name under a brand new language, right? Part 2, Article 13, Part 2, states shall take effective measure to ensure that the rights is protected and also to ensure that indigenous peoples can understand and be understood in political, legal, administrative proceedings where necessary through provisions of, can you scroll down? That's blocked a little
Sure.
bit. Provisions of interpretation or by other appropriate means. In other words, that their system of legalese, medicalese, and all of these foreign languages being used to conceal what's we need to know, and that's critical for our welfare. We have a right to have somebody to explain it to us from us. That's what I'm doing today. So I'm following what's written in these documents, not because they're written in these documents, but I'm following what's written in these documents because this is the oral tradition of the tribes of the land, grandfather claused in, everything that they do is ex post facto in nature in relation to the tribal laws of the land. Right? What's the next one? Is the next one is another page on this?
No, we're going
Okay.
to the next slide. The next slide.
Okay. Now enlarge that so they can see it. This is the
Okay.
American Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. And we using both because one is because this what we are doing is global in scope, so we use the one the United Nations wrote. This one is more targeted specific to the tribes of Turtle Island. So in this document, it's going to pretty much tell us what the other document did, but we got to go over it so y'all can see that we following the tribal process for redeeming the land. So this, can you enlarge it?
Wait a minute,
And
hold on
scroll
one
to the
second.
top.
Every time I make it bigger, let me see if I can go back. Oh, there we go. There you are. Is that big enough?
Okay. Just can you scroll up just a little bit more to the top of the page?
It's at the top.
Okay, so this is Article 14. Systems of knowledge, language, and communication. This is critical to understand what we are doing at this very moment in time. Indigenous people have the right to preserve, use, develop. Here go to revitalize again, different document. Remember, I told you I pay attention to that. And transmit to the future generations their own histories, languages, oral traditions. So they both agree that if we follow the oral tradition, that we in effect are competent enough to use the tribal ways to restore the great law and the matriarchy back to the land. Philosophy, systems of knowledge, writing, and literature, and to designate and retain their own names for their communities, individuals, and places, almost word for word from the other document. Section 2, states shall adopt adequate and effective measures to protect the exercise of this right with the full and effective participation of indigenous people. This meaning that all of the tribes have to be made aware of this in order for them to be protected. They can exercise the right to restructure the tribal government, which is going to require us during our 1 year long celebration in 2025 to have leadership summits with the local tribes all over the land. There is no tribe that is not invited. All
Right.
tribal leaders will send delegates or they will come themselves and they will organize these meetings all across the land. It's we obligated to do that after the war ends to restructure our systems.
Also,
Right
Pontiac.
now, we are closing out the war part. And once the war part is effectively accepted by the peace chief and to reestablish peace and justice, then we move to the next phase, which will come up at the end of this presentation. What did you have about Jaguar?
So I wanted people to pay attention where it says states shall opposed to states may or states will. So there's a difference when you're reading is for the people that something is suggestive or something is directive or directing. So when you pay attention to the language, those things become important as he moves from one to the next. Yeah.
The section 3, still in Article 14 of the United States Indigenous Rights Act, says indigenous people have the right to promote and develop all their systems and media of communication, including their own radio and television programs, and to have equal access to all other means of communication and information. States shall take measures to promote the broadcast of radio and television programs in indigenous languages, particularly in the area with an indigenous presence. States shall support and facilitate the creation of indigenous radio and television stations, as well as other means of information and communication. So this is saying that we have a right to reclaim the broadcasting networks and to utilize them for the agency of tribal use. In whatever tribal language is the local tribal language, they have to facilitate them being able to have access to reports. So this this is part of a systematic takeover. This is taking over media and communications. Number 4, states in conjunction with indigenous people. That means they got to be working together. The state can't do nothing unless they're working with the indigenous people. Shall make efforts to ensure that those peoples can understand and be understood in their own languages in administrative, political, and judicial proceedings, if necessary, through the provisions of interpretation or by other effective means. So this means that they can't use their ignorance of the law defense to pursue actions against you when you don't understand the language that they speak in. Let's go to the next page, Empress. Article 22, indigenous law and jurisdiction. You got to remember that, because once the war ends, we go back to tribal jurisdiction. It's saying indigenous peoples have the right to promote, develop, and maintain their institutional structures and their distinctive customs, spirituality, traditions, procedures, practices, and, in the case where they exist, judicial systems or customs, which is what we're following. It's the oral tradition of the judicial customs to enforce the law of the land, and we have to make it known to as many tribes people who's been displaced and affected by the legal fiction, so that they can know that there's tribal representation reclaiming what's rightfully ours in accordance with international human rights standards. Part 2, indigenous law and legal systems shall be recognized and respected by national, regional, and international legal systems. This means that all of the old jurisdictional authorities have to respect our rights, to reclaim our right to administer our own legal affairs on the land, and they have to facilitate that according to these documents when we following the tribal process correctly. Part 3, matters concerning indigenous individuals or their rights or interests in the jurisdiction of each state shall be conducted in such a way as to afford indigenous individuals the right to full representation with dignity and equality before the law. Consequently, they are, which mean the consequences, they are entitled. Notice that word entitled. That means that they obligated to give you something. You entitled, without discrimination, to equal protection and benefits of the law, including the use of linguistic and cultural interpreters, almost the same as the other document word for word. Next page, Empress. This is Article 21, right to autonomy of self-government. And for the record, a right means that they not giving you nothing. You already have this coming. They just putting it into words that you can read so you can put it in the words that you're using it. So they really coaching you on how to get your stuff back. But because we don't know where to look, I had to come and do it. Because I look at stuff that other people don't look, because the way I'm wired, because the prayers my mama prayed while I was being developed in order to shape the potential chief into the mentality or the mindset of the person sent as a kinsman redeemer or family redeemer. Hold on, where am I at?
Number 2.
Section 2. Indigenous people have the right to maintain and develop their own decision-making institutions. They also have a right to participate in decision-making in manners in which would affect their rights. They may do so directly or through their representatives. I'm the representative of all of the unified clans who needed a code breaker to break the codes in order to tell y'all where all this stuff is at and to follow the redemption process to go get it. And my responsibility being done now is to inform the Empress as the blood right matriarch to the seat, who actually sat in the sacerdotal seat in Philadelphia, reclaiming the political and the administrative responsibilities of the tribal nations once we get to this point where we at now. So it said they also had a right to participate in decision making in matters which would affect their rights. They may do so directly or through their representatives and in accordance with their own norms, procedures, and traditions. Right? This is important. They also have the right to equal opportunities in accessing and participating fully and effectively as peoples in all national institutions and forums, including deliberative bodies, which is people that's making decisions. When they say deliberative bodies, those are the people that's sitting in decision-making positions. All right, let's go to the next one. This is section 5, social, economic, and property rights. This is to show y'all that when we follow this process, we have these right to these resources, all of them, mineral rights, all of that. And it's Article 25, traditional forms of property and cultural survival, right to land, territory, and resources. Part 1, indigenous people have the right to maintain and strengthen their distinctive spiritual, cultural, and material relationships with their lands, territories, and resources, and to uphold their responsibilities to preserve them for themselves and for future generations. Our resources is what you call in the business world gross national product, gross domestic product. Those things which we get from the land, on the land, without having to leave, and we can create from that, those are your resources. All farmlands are resources. They are food stock resources. So y'all know when they say resources, they giving it all back. We have to follow the process that I'm following now. Section 2 say indigenous people have the right to the lands, territories, and resources which they have traditionally owned, occupied, and otherwise used or acquired. This means that when this is all over and the military come and pull up with their motorcade to the Emperor's house, that they're going to enforce this through military channels to make sure that whatever the collective clans agree to is enforced. Because we can talk about being free all we want to, but if we can't have any particular agency of defense, we free slaves. Part 3, indigenous people have the right to own, use, develop, and control the lands, territories, and resources that they possess by reason of traditional ownership, which means heritable through the motherland. That's traditional ownership from tribal perspective. We don't believe in selling land. Anybody told you we sold land, they lied to you and they stole it in contracts. The possession by reason of traditional ownership and other traditional occupation or use, as well as those which they have otherwise acquired. Those things that we acquired are everything that the enemy owned that we seized. We seized all of the military equipment. We seized all of their museums that house our ancient artifacts, both as displays and in secret showings, and benefit financially from the display of our ancestral relics. All right, let's go to the next one. Part 4. State shall, hold on, scroll up some. Yep. State shall give legal recognition and protection to these lands, territories, and resources. That means they can't deny us when we follow the oral tradition. And we're going to go into why they have to follow what we're doing and return it to specific people as we go on. Such recognition shall be conducted with due respect to the customs or traditions and land tenure systems of the indigenous people concerned. Section 5 says indigenous people have the right to legal recognition of the various and particular modalities and forms of property, possession, and ownerships of their lands, territories, and resources in accordance with the legal system of each state and the relevant international instruments. That's what they gave you when they gave you the alloidial title. That's called a foundational instrument, right? And in there is dated retroactively from the day before Columbus came, meaning that it's grandfathered in from the day before Columbus came in our status at that time. Nothing in on the flip side, after Columbus will continue to apply when it comes to the rights of the land. That go back to the tribal mothers, and we request that when they approach the tribal mothers, that we have these meetings in order to reallocate land, farmland, and restructure cities and rebuild communities in the name of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice instead of suffering, oppression, exploitation, and diminished capacity by deliberate miseducation.
Not only that, but genocidal tendencies throughout the communities, where they even set up these housing projects, right? And
Yeah,
they set them up for 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 us to live in, and then to then claim they're going to develop and then kick everybody out, and then they develop it for other folks to benefit
that's called
from.
redlining. That
Yeah,
was red when they was redlining. Yeah.
yeah,
Okay. Is that the end of that one? We go to the next one.
yeah.
Okay. Now, Department of Defense have a law of war manual. This is what it looks like. The law of war manual gives us the parameters of our position in the war, right? And it's telling us that you're going to have two sides to the war. Some of them not going to follow the rules of war, but the righteous ones is going to do everything righteous by the rules of war. So going into this, let's go to the next page. this is where you start to see what we are doing. I only want to read the first paragraph where it talks about George Washington. That's as big as you could get it.
No, give me a second.
There you go. Okay, now you just scroll to the top of the page and we'll be good. Oh, you shrunk it back down.
Hold on. I didn't. Give me a second. Trying to find the little plus sign that normally shows up on there. Is that big enough or you need it bigger?
A little bit bigger. Right there. Now if we can just get to the yep. Now if we get to that paragraph, we'll be good.
Give me a second. Okay, there we go.
And now you gotta slide it over to
Uh, if I hit the other button, then it's gonna.
let me see if I can read it. Let me tilt my screen a little bit here. In fact, I can turn it this way. Okay. Read it better.
There
Right
we
there.
go.
That's perfect. Perfect.
Okay, hold on. It's doing what it wants to do. There we go. Is that good?
Hold on. Wait till it stops and see what it do. Hold on. All right, there we go. So this is the forward. The law of the the law of war is of fundamental importance to the armed forces. I can't see because I got the
Okay.
of the United States. Okay, got you. All right, now the law of war is part of who we are, right? George Washington, as commander in chief of the Continental Army, agreed with the British adversary that the Revolutionary War would be, quote, carried on agreeable to the rules which humanity formed and, quote, to prevent or punish every breach of within the sphere of respective commands. During the Civil War, President Lincoln approved a set of instructions for the government of the armies of the United States in the field, which inspired other countries to adopt similar codes for their armed forces, which served as a template for international codifications of the law of war, right? So, why is this important? Can you pull up the one with the picture of George Washington?
Yes.
Now, this, right, is the statement, which is the parameters of the war that George Washington was making reference to. It was the war between two groups of people who look alike phenotypically, but genetically are not the same people. They have a different psychology, different mental body, a different spiritual makeup from the people that's organic to this land. And this was known as the feathers versus fezzes. It's also known as elves versus bays. But it's really not a conflict between the people, but the ideologies that they adopted. Noble Drew Ali brought in a mission to restore the matriarchy, but the ones we refer to as the dirty Moors was to upset the restoration, stop our leadership, and to put a patriarchal agenda in its place. So the way that you tell the difference in the righteous Moor and the dirty Moor, the righteous Moors are going to be telling you the truth, right? At the beginning of the war, they were babes. And the unrighteous Moor or the dirty Moor is going to try to convince you that you are living in Northwest Africa, aka Al Maghrib. This is not Al Maghrib. So the statement reads as a quote from George Washington: if we would agree to take the fezzes and turbans off the Moors' heads, and remove the sandals from their feet and enforce severe punishment. Stop. The enforced severe punishment is a document known as the most vile and the most bloody and vile oath of the papacy. It's also a Rothschild statement on the harsh treatment of these people that's of the land. So that's where it's saying enforce severe punishment, that's telling you where to find it at. And to also swear a death oath, that's the bloody oath, between ourselves, meaning these groups and secret societies, to religiously and faithfully not to allow anyone to teach the Moorish children. That means the righteous Moor or the dirty Moor, it do not matter. You cannot, nobody is allowed to teach you who they really were or who their forefathers were, right? And only allow the Moorish children to be taught that they were truly Negroes, Black people, and colored folks. 200 years from today, the Moorish people would not know their nationality nor the national name of their forefathers. Also, they would not know from which land or ancestors they are from, they are descended from. So the challenge was to put the conquistadors and the Huguenots, gentry from Britain, and all of those exiles from the French Revolution and Spanish Inquisition that the Pope commissioned under the Discovery Doctrine to go out and conquer the world under the name of the cross, enforcing what's commonly known as the white man's burden, to turn all heathen nations into the Christian faith in order to continue the Roman Empire in ad infinitum, which means forever. Our job as the righteous ones is to stand in the position of right, exercise our right by blood and the truth. Tell the truth to the people that the people can see that we did everything righteous by the rules of war, which takes us to the statement by Tupac, so you know that I'm not the only one who knew this. The quote, "I done everything righteous by the rules of war," is from Tupac Shakur's song Holla, which is featured on his album All Eyes on Me. This line reflects Tupac's reflections on his life experience, struggles, and views on loyalty and conflict. If you like to explore more about the theme in his music or need further analysis, feel free to ask. So you see, Tupac's job was to use the cover of entertainment to make as many chiefs on the land aware as possible of what was taking place. And he had to make allegiances with other chiefs who had been disposed of by the system and concealed from the public under the Masonic order of a Masonic secret. The Masonic secret is we are the ancient Mississippian tribes. We trace back before the Olmecs to the time of Atlantis. We originally had the Temple of Isis in Arizona in what's commonly known as the Grand Canyon. It's still there. The Smithsonian Museum has excavated many Egyptian artifacts, as they call them, from Arizona, and then they applied those discoveries on paper to Egypt in the Middle East, which is actually Northeast Africa. So let's go to the next page, Empress. So now we following the rules of war. The people that we being told is two different people are these two. It's really about 3 or 4 of them. The George Washington character is the cover character in the Americas for what Adam Weishaupt was to the Bavarian Illuminati in Europe. Doctrines are the same. Also, you have a guy by the name of Albert Pike, right? Who they actually have a photograph of Albert Pike, but they don't have photograph of these contemporaries. So the real George Washington was a Washita from Barbados of heavily melanated concentrations in his skin. But during the whitewashing of history, under the white man's burden to rewrite the history and deceive the tribal peoples of the land, they've whitewashed these characters, and they've also used them by different artist renditions of these characters in order to give us somebody who's supposed to have been a so-called founding father, and all they was interlopers and invaders. The real George Washington had a war with the French Huguenots, whom the Adam Weishaupt George Washington was, a Huguenot from France, a melanated European exile. So racism, which is the hardest thing to overcome after the indoctrination of their system, is the doctrines of racism. Racism is the most powerful divide and conquer tool ever devised in the wicked mind of a wicked man. The doctrine for racism is the document ascribed to Adam Weishaupt called the Protocols of the Learned Elders of Zion, right? That is the operational manual or the doctrinal layout of white supremacy, but it wasn't written by anybody that we would classify as white now. Back then, the term white was in reference to the nobilities that were in exile from Europe because they were sent out to attack the world, and white is the offensive players on the chessboard. And all of the Moors love chess, the righteous ones and the wicked ones. And the chess game that they playing is the one that we checkmating their ass on right now. Next page, Empress. So this is a doctrine in law. It's called the grandfather clause. This is important that you understand how the grandfather clause worked, right? It was originally a doctrine written in the United States South by tribes of the South. It's a grandfather clause is an exemption that allows persons or entities to continue with activities or operations that were approved before the grandfather clause term originated during the U.S. Civil War era and referred to statutes enacted in the South to suppress African American voting, right? So that's the origin of it. It says the law of Armenia on foreign investments. Oh, that's a whole different thing. That's a whole different thing. So the grandfather clause is to use a law that's still in play, that's never been overturned by a ruling body, which means that if you call it out, it still applies. Which take us to the next page, Empress. Everything they do is ex post facto laws in relation to the tribal jurisdictional oral government. Ex post facto law. Ex post facto means after the fact. So this is what the grandfather clause is overriding ex post facto law. New laws cannot apply to people operating before the new law was passed, unless it be an ex post facto violation. So they can't tell us that we have to follow their 1776 constitutional government if we have a never before overruled system of law that nobody's contested that still holds weight. If it was from tribal origin under the oral tradition, we can use it, which we're going to be getting to in a few minutes. So it say right here, Article 20, Clause 1 provides that no person shall be convicted of any offense except for violations of a law in force at the time of the commission of the act, charged as an offense, nor be subject to penalty greater than that which might have been inflicted under the law in force at the time of the commission of the offense. It states that a person can neither be punished for any offense which was at the time of the commission not charged as an offense, nor subjected to a penalty greater than that which might have been inflicted under the law in force at the time of the commission of the offense, hence termed as ex post facto law. The said article seeks to safeguard and protect the rights of those persons who are accused of any crime, and including citizens, non-citizens, as well as corporations. The significance of the article is evident by stating that the article cannot be suspended even during an emergency declared under Article 359. Okay, so their laws in relation to the tribes is what we call ex post factos. If we go back to our laws, that's called grandfather clause N. So we're using tribal tradition under the grandfather clause because nobody can overturn our rights based on the Indigenous Rights Act of the United Nations and the Indigenous Rights Act of America. As long as we follow the oral tradition and produce the receipts in the public before as many tribes people as possible, we can continue with the next page, exercising our jurisdictional supremacy. This is another discussion on ex post facto law in the history of it. An ex post facto law from the Latin for from affirmative act from after the action or after the fact, also called a retroactive law, is a law that retroactively changes the legal consequences or status of actions that were committed or relationships that existed before the enactment of the law. Conversely, a form of ex post facto law, commonly called amnesty law. So what we're doing is we are exercising amnesty from the judicial systems that was chartered under the Bar Association of King George in Savannah, Georgia, right? May decriminalize certain acts or alleviate possible punishment. For example, by replacing the death sentence with lifelong imprisonment retroactively, cancels all death penalties, but you stuck in there for life. Such laws are also known by the Latin term in medias. Medius means a reduction. In other words, as in to reduce your sentence because of mitigating factor. The root word is medius, which to minimize, right? Next page. So once you understand what ex post facto law is, then you start to understand more about how to use tribal systems or oral traditions. This takes us to something called the fruit of the poison tree doctrine, which has several exceptions, including independent source, inevitable discovery. But before I read this, I'm going to go into the fruit of the poison tree doctrine is relevant here because foundational instruments under the fruit of the poison tree doctrine, the foundational instruments brings down all instruments that's built on top of that instrument. This emerged out of a legal argument about police unlawfully collecting evidence and using that unlawfully collected evidence in order to prosecute a person as if the evidence was lawfully acquired. Example, if the police put on a ski mask, break in your house, and steal a key of cocaine without a search warrant, and go down to the police, log it into evidence, and then come back and arrest you for having a key of cocaine, that evidence is inadmissible in court because the manner in which the police officer came about it. So now they can't charge you. They have to dismiss the case. We bring that up because the Pope rescinded the discovery doctrine after he was put on public notice by Sipico in Canada. And this is also how you know that there's multiple tribes involved in this redemption process. Every tribe is not responsible for the same part. The part that I'm doing is I am speaking up and I'm showing y'all what we doing so y'all can understand that the tribes has reclaimed Turtle Island and all of the properties and rights included in reclaiming that. So we're going to go over this fruit of the poison tree doctrine to give you an understanding of how it applies to us claiming the foundational documents of their systems and how all of these foundational documents being captured gives us jurisdictional increase on the land as we systematically take over. So the fruit of the poison tree doctrine has several exceptions. That means that if it's an independent source, that means your neighbor broke in your house, stole the key, gave it to the police, and told them you were selling dope. That's not the police doing it. That's a citizen's arrest. He didn't need a warrant, but you could still have an arguable case. That's independent source. The inevitable discovery is that you have a shooting victim and the police come knock on your door to see if you own a gun and it's laying on the end table. That's called inevitable discovery. When he arrests you, take you in, go in your house without a warrant and get the gun. Even if he would have got the warrant, the officer already saw the gun, so they'll argue that it was inevitable that he would discover the firearm involved in the shooting. The it goes on and says the evidence would have been discovered by law enforcement regardless of the unconstitutional conduct. Another exception is intervening act of free will, which is the defendant's voluntary act breaks the causal chain between the evidence and the original illegal search. That means if the police pull you over and you bust out and be like, please don't arrest me, I got an AK in the trunk. And he say, let me see, you volunteered that information, you gave yourself up, right? That's intervening intervening act of free will. That means you offered yourself up, self-sacrifice. Then the final exception is called attenuation. There is an interruption between the illegal search and the discovery of the evidence, right? Which means that at the time that the crime was committed, they didn't see the evidence, but they came back later on and discovered the evidence there, right? The fruit of the poison tree doctrine generally bars the use of evidence that is derived from exculpable evidence, such as a confession, right? So if you confess, then that's not considered fruit of the poison tree unless you was forced into a confession, right? So the doctrine is a evidence related doctrine that allows you to take the foundational instrument and all things built upon that foundational instrument when the fraud is discovered is the fruits of the poison tree. The fraud was that we never agreed to any of the contracts, treaties that was ascribed to us, and the non-performance, meaning they never honored any of the treaties that they allegedly signed with us, which we never signed treaties to surrender land. and several chiefs has this on public record. We don't believe in selling the land. You can come, you can help us work the land, you can learn cultivation of the land, but you can't have it forever. Right? Next page, Empress. This is a continuation of the description of the fruit of the poison tree. It's can you blow it up any bigger? Under the doctrine, any evidence illegally obtained in an illegal search, arrest, or interrogation or violation of a law taints all those subsequently obtained. The poisonous tree is the primary evidence seized in an illegal arrest, search, or interrogation, and the fruit of the poisonous tree is the secondary evidence discovered because the primary evidence illegally obtained. That means that if they illegally obtain one piece of evidence that lead them to another, like they steal your wallet, take your combination lock out, then get a warrant to take what's in your safe. That's the secondary evidence is what's in the safe. The primary was the combination lock numbers that was in your wallet when they stole it. Right? The secondary evidence discovered because of the primary evidence illegally obtained. Since the primary evidence will be excluded from trial, any secondary evidence discovered or obtained because of it may not also be used. That means because they found out they stole your wallet and took the combination lock, nothing in the safe can be admissible either. So this is the same as when they surrendered the allodial title that they wrote on our land to Empress Redbird because I exercised the blood and the right to cancel their contracts for fraud and non-performance. All of these things are in the public domain already. Now it's showing you the effect of what's about to happen. Let's go to the next page, Empress. Okay, now this is what I was doing on behalf of Empress. It's called first right of claim in law. The Empress has a heritable first right of claim to the Turtle Island landmass by blood and by right. Right. So for you to understand what the first claim of right is in law, which is also taking us back to the Indigenous Rights Act, right? And it's also taking us back to the grandfather clause, right? So you have a claim of right defense in a legal case. A legal defense used when someone claims they took property that rightfully belongs to them. For example, if someone takes their own painting from another person's wall, they can use the claim of right defense if they are charged with theft. That's talking about all of the fraudulent contracts they use to steal the land is classified under the claim of right defense that you can't say we wrong and you can't punish us because we coming to get what's ours. And the second part, if you scroll down, is what's most applicable to you, Empress. And this is the first in time rule, right? So the first in time is the one who been owning it the longest and never gave up ownership, but didn't say nothing when somebody squatted in the house, right? So the first in time rule, also known as the rule of capture, as in capture the allodial title to secure the land. This property law theory states that the first person to use or appropriate a property is the owner. This theory is the default rule for recording property transfer unless state statutes have different requirements. For example, if someone finds a lost property and removes it from the water, talk about us now. This is talking about the organic people of the land because when they classified us as black, claimed that we crashed our landmass in a ship, we was all classified under the birth certificate as being presumed dead and lost at sea as black. Right? So this is why I say if someone finds lost property and removes it from the water, that's called salvage right. They have ownership rights unless the true owner claims it. And so at this point, as the war chief talking to the peace chief, I gotta ask you, have you or any of your ancestors knowingly, willingly, fully understanding, surrendered any portion of any land in any parts of Turtle Island that you're aware of?
I'm gonna make a stand. Absolutely not.
My ancestors told me that they never freely and willingly voluntarily gave up any land either. And all of the other chiefs, similarly situated as you and I, have not been able to find where any of their ancestors ever surrendered any land.
And
So
my
we feel both the
never.
first in time rule, right?
Right.
And what was the first one? The claim of right. Right? So the first right of claim, we fit both descriptions of a claim of right and a first in time. Our ancestors' burial grounds proves our status as the first in time on the land, organic to the land.
That's correct. That
Okay.
predates any of these corporations that are masquerading like they're our government. So
Right.
that don't trump our rights at all.
Okay. Let's go on to the next page. What do we got here for them? Okay, the reason why this is in here because I was born in Illinois. The Illinois Confederacy of the tribes that control the land was a treaty written in Pontiac, Illinois, under the LSD agreement, Lord Stone's disciples. All is one. All of the different tribes had representatives that made a peace treaty to continue the Illinois Confederation of the Midwest tribes, right? This is all public knowledge. The spokesperson that is responsible to give all of the collective clans a verbal report has been held incapable and in effect by the corporate system to prevent us from asserting our tribal right, and therefore his responsibility has been thrust upon me as a free person walking the land in my sovereign capacity, in my 5/5 realized right frame of mind, to exercise the tribal right for all tribes to be restored back to before 1492 and the celebrations to come as it returns, as we reclaim. So the Kaskaskia were a Native American tribe that was part of the Illinois Confederation, a group of about a dozen tribes that shared a cultural and spoken Algonquin language. The location, the Kakaskia homeland was in the Great Lakes region, and their main village was a starved rock on the Illinois River. The name Kaskaskia is an anglicized version of the term Kaskaskamwa, which means he who scrapes it off by means of a tool. Right? I need to scroll down, Senator.
I'm coming. I had to
Okay,
go and
so this is to refresh the memory of an older agreement that was reestablished using tribes organic to the land that was misnomered by the corporation as gangs when they was reconstituting tribes under competent tribal leadership. COINTELPRO was the means by which they supplanted the leadership of the tribes of the land. We go to the next page.
Okay.
They get that part.
Okay.
So these tribes that made these agreements on the West Coast, you had tribes making agreements with the leadership as well.
That's the last one.
And on the East Coast, they made a movie about it. The tribal reunification in the 70s called Warriors, right? And that was about bringing the tribes together to reclaim the land.
This is the last one. This is the last one on this
Okay, you
section.
got another folder? Another folder. We got one more folder to go over.
No, this is the fourth one. You only gave me 4 folders.
Oh, okay.
Let me
Yeah, because it's some more, there's some stuff that goes into here.
give me a
Let me
second. I'm going to um go there. Give me a second here. I only
I know
have,
exactly what's missing.
yeah. Okay, so what's missing? Because you sent me part 1, 2, 3, and 4.
I'm
And
finna text. I'm finna text you what's missing.
well, email it to me so I can put it on the screen.
Okay.
And then we need to get Jaguar ready.
Yeah, we almost to where she ready. We need this one. Uh,
And while you're doing that, uh, if you don't want to be on this, whether you're on TikTok or whether you're on YouTube, those of you all who come on and starting stuff in the chat, we're going to kick you out. That's why I got up. And so you don't have to be a part of anything. Why do you have to come on people's channel and feel like you got to assert your funkiness? Because you're not gonna ruin anything that's going on here tonight. Go find somebody else's TikTok channel to occupy, because we don't have time right now for all your nonsense. And you folks who are coming on particularly my TikTok channel, ain't nothing but peace and love going on over here. And we're gonna love the hell out of your ass if you stick around long enough. So get off this TikTok channel if you don't want to be about love. Go on somewhere else. Because we got work to do. We got things to do. And no, this is not a damn costume. You're not used to seeing us melanated people in these kind of attires. But you won't say nothing about any other person being in. That shows where your mentality is. But you can't get me pissed off because I'm in a bubble of love. Love, 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 love. But I will cut your ass if you don't get off my TikTok channel. Kick them off. And that goes on the YouTube channel too. You don't want to be here and be in the presence of love? Get off. Okay, I'm still waiting for it, son. I just
no,
had to
hold
do
on
that
one
public
second.
announcement.
I'm about to send it to you. I almost sent you a blank thing.
Okay. No, they don't know love, Keisha. No, but my late husband is a veteran. And yes, we all are veterans of war. Let me take that back. Okay? We all are veterans of this secret war that has been waged against us for many, 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 many years. So we are veterans. Yes, we are. The true veterans.
All right, Empress, this should be coming in a second.
Okay. All right, there we go. Okay, part 5. All right, so let me share my screen. All right.
So this is from the Law of War, and I want to go over this so they can see the. This is actually a step-by-step rollout of what we've been doing. Okay, so it say the status quo between nation states as established and maintained by the instruments of national power, regional and international relations. This state establishes the conditional norm or default setting, which left unchanged, will predictably continue in the future. So that's the assessing of the current government, is all that is. The phase 1, resistance and external sponsors conduct psychological preparation to unify population against established government and occupying power and prepare population to accept U.S. support, right? So that means that once we start making these unity agreements to the tribes and we can get our children to wake up to what's going on, we can start moving to remove the government. That's phase 1. Phase 2, United States government agencies coordinate with allied government in exile, which is us, or resistance leadership, which is us, for desired U.S. support. So the government in exile, they directly speaking about Assata Shakur, one of the matriarchs of the land, who is most loved, respected by her people. Her territory is New Jersey territory, where she was shot at and spilt her blood on the turnpike at the hands of the slave patrols. In the resistance leadership, that's me and you. We the ones who's following the oral tradition in order for the resistance to reclaim what's rightfully ours, right? SF team infiltrates operational area, establishes communication with its bases, and contacts resistance organization. So this was when they came to my job and asked me about the union negotiations, and they sent the government agent as if I wasn't gonna know. So I called him out on this shit in front of everybody in the meeting. And he was so shocked he couldn't do nothing but turn beet red and laugh and try to play it off. But I know who they was. So they was making contact. Also, the contact, I had a friend request from a very high-ranking general on my Facebook page who has been watching this whole process on behalf of the continuity of government team in Raven Rock, Colorado. He is the liaison that reports to them everything I post in the redemption process that proves we are the rightful heirs and we are in continuity of government and we have been for 5 years. And now the people was about to see us come out. And this is where we at now. SF team organizes, trains, and equips resistance cater. Emphasis is on developing infrastructure. Now, remember, I told you we had a team working on each part of the new government rollout. That's all being done in Raven Rock as we do the redemption process in order to inform the most amount of tribes people across the land. Now that we doing our due diligence, they following our steps so that they'll know what's next. And the people are being informed in real time as these events are unfolding, and what they are seeing doesn't, it looks different than what's actually taking place. Can you scroll down to the bottom part so we can read the rest of this?
Yes.
I think we got two more to read. Right there, that's good. UW forces conduct combat operations until link up with conventional forces or end of hostilities. So the conduct combat operations has been the systematic cleaning up of underground bases being held by the people that was exercising undue control over the people of the land. They had underground tunnel systems set up for the abduction of our children, and they had processing centers like butcher shops where they extracted the adrenochrome and harvested organs from different people. And they also, all of this combat has been going on underground since 2020. And because I'm reading this tells you that we are at the end of the hostilities, and now we are laying the groundwork for them to bring us into a unified recognition of what the work that's been being done. UW forces, this phase 7, the transition. Remember, we was in the final phase of continuity of government back in March. Remember when we told them? We did the
Yeah.
public announcement?
Yes.
Okay, so this is, it said, forces revert to the national control, shifting to regular forces or demobilizing. But they first have to make contact with you before they can demobilize any forces. Once they realize what's taking place, the next thing is communication with you in order to proceed. You're going to find that a lot of the work has been done already that we think that we need to be doing, but because they following the steps that I'm taking in the oral tradition, they know what foundations to lay. And there are other tribes who have chiefs that specialize in different parts of government in all areas: economics, education, entertainment, labor law, politics, religion, sex and war, and health. So it's 10 areas of people activity. Health is the common denominator to the other 9, right? So let's go to the next page. Okay, this is gonna explain a lot of stuff in here. It's got a lot of information in it. I don't know if it's gonna be big enough for me to read. I might have to read it off another
Wait a minute, hold on. I have to bring it down just a little bit. Give me a second here. Uh, all right. There you go. Can you see that?
right there, right there, right there. Oh,
Uh,
this is
oh, okay, there we go. Give me 1 second because it moves. There we go.
all right. Joint doctrine defines UW as activities, which is unconventional war, as activities conducted to enable a resistance movement or insurgency to coerce, disrupt, or overthrow a government or occupying power by operating through and with an underground auxiliary and guerrilla forces in I can't see that word. In a
Denied.
denied area. It's a more recently published public law defines unconventional war as activity conducted to enable a resistance movement or insurgency to coerce, disrupt, or overthrow a government or occupying power. That's the part we talking about. By operating through or with an underground auxiliary or guerrilla force in a denied area, right? And then these are definitions now. So the resistance movement is an organized effort by some portion of the civil population of a country to resist the legally established government or an occupying power or to disrupt civil order and stability, right? In insurgency, you got to scroll up some because we're starting to get close to the bottom. The organized use of subversion and violence to seize, nullify, or challenge political control of a region. Insurgency can also be referred to the group itself, right? Counterinsurgency, comprehensive civilian and military efforts taken to defeat an insurgency and to address any core grievances. You want to scroll down some more, Empress? You on mute. Oh, you trying to get the host to unmute you?
You can unmute.
Okay. I just got kicked off of TikTok, so all right. So you want me to stroll down some? Gee,
Mm-hmm.
okay. Keep on
Okay.
going.
This is good for now. Foreign internal defense. Participation by civilian and military agencies of a government in any of the action programs taken by another government or either a designated organization to free and protect its society from subversion, lawlessness, insurgency, terrorism, and other threats to its security. So this is saying while we reclaiming everything, initiating an insurgency, that the military responsibility is to keep as much order as possible using political satire and theatrical effect of Hollywood in order to keep the people calm during the time to protect the society, right? Then you have coerce. Coercion is forcing someone or some entity to do something it would rather not do. Unconventional warfare can apply to the method of coercion through supporting a resistance or insurgency. The term disrupt means disrupts, prevents, or impedes someone or some entity from doing something it would prefer to do, although disruption can be a relatively small scale, it can also be large scale, such as coordinated regional resistance, right? Anything left on that page?
Uh, it's 2 pages here.
Okay, so let's read the second page.
Okay.
Okay, so the term overthrow, the USG may sponsor unconventional warfare to overthrow a state or occupying power when it is intended that the supported successful resistance will support appropriate leaders for political control and governance. That means that if we have people that's ready to receive the government, it's the responsibility of the military that's watching the process surrender those people to fulfill those functions. Then you have the term underground. It's a cellular organization within the resistance that has the ability to conduct operations in areas that are inaccessible to guerrillas, such as urban areas under the control of the local security forces, aka the police. Right? That means the police don't allow us to perform our tribal responsibility of policing our own community. Instead, they send outsiders into our community to bust us upside the head as opposed to help us figure out what's wrong. I got something on my screen. Auxiliary. Auxiliary refers to the portion of the population that provides active clandestine support to the guerrilla forces or the underground. That's all of the people that's sitting back in the back that ain't saying nothing, but they support us. You know, they send us donations. They send us messages and keep doing what you're doing. I see what you're doing. I support you. I got your back. The public don't know about them, but we know about them because they the ones that's supporting the restoration of the tribal rights and the tribal jurisdiction. And finally, we get to the guerrilla force, a group of irregular, predominantly indigenous personnel organized along military lines to conduct military and paramilitary operations in enemy-held, hostile, or denied territories. So my instructions from my mama was, when you go to war, baby, you don't have to fire a shot if you follow the tribal process. We trying to get away from bloody war and we trying to find peace on earth. And the only way to do that is, instead of pursuing the war, the bloody war, we just close the war out, end the war. In the uncivil war, the domestic warfare. We was at war domestically at home, treated as foreigners at home, and told that we was from somewhere else other than where we at, when we have all of the evidence now to prove who we are, to reveal the Masonic secret as to who he is, who was the dirty players that put us in the condition. All of their feds is in the George Washington Masonic Memorial, and all of the chiefs, they are represented on a painting with King Carlos V, also known as Charles V. And he was the one who said that he would back the native, and George Washington's crew backed the invader. And they came to a ceasefire agreement. Now, this is where we at in the totality of the conflict. We bringing an end to the war. And this was posted by somebody, and I had to bring it on here and read so that we all understand what we about to see next. Special operations forces may conduct unconventional warfare until they assist the resistance in removing a hostile power and the indigenous population becomes the government. At this point, it is critical to shift mindset from defeating the adversary regime to protecting the newly installed government and its security personnel from insurgency, lawlessness, and subversion by former regime elements that attempt to organize their own resistance. Planners should have addressed transition planning in the feasibility assessment that formed the basis of the determination to support the resistance organization. That means that the Department of Defense responsibility now is to support the organic tribes by alerting the general public to the transfer of power from an occupying foreign agency to a rightful heir representative as the Empress of the Shalagi Cherokee Nation. This concludes the paperwork part of this presentation, and I only have a couple things to say, and we can pass it over to Jaguar. Now, Empress, I'm a certified war chief. You a certified peace chief. We both have the blood and the right. I want to end the war, and I want to be in agreement with you to end the war on the behalf of the greatest good of the most tribesmen across the land. Mm-hmm. And I agree that we should return back to the great law. I agree that we should restore the matriarchy in order to have the best future for our children. And if I haven't said anything wrong and anything incorrect, and you agree with me, you can take it from here and assert your jurisdictional power to call for peace among the clans so that we can be restored on the land.
Mm-hmm. I agree wholeheartedly, and that will bring us to our next phase as to why Jaguar is here to read the preamble declaration of the accord, and if she could explain to you what the accord is and why we must do this at this time. I yield. As she come forth, I will stand while she reads the accord and staying in agreement as my position as the pure blood matriarchal descendancy and as the head of state and exercising my right, my birthright on the land to exert my authority. And with that, I yield to Jaguar before I start sharing my screen.
Ashe. Love and light, everyone. So we've reached the point where the official word from the Empress is now going to follow the oral tradition. And this means that this becomes the first recordation of her accord to not only the domestic United States, but to a global audience. And so from this point right here, this moment, right moment in time, is we won't use history, we'll use her story. History is his story. And because his story is revisionist, whitewashed, and so forth, Empress stepping into her seat, taking her place, it is now her story. And her story is beginning with this preamble. So to all those with ears to hear, notice to principle as
No, agent.
notice to agent, notice to agent is notice to principle. We're not gonna focus on that word notice because that's not where we are. We're calling this the preamble, and this is an accord. The declaration and notice for accord.
You want me to go straight there, or you want to start right here?
No, go straight down.
Okay. Let me stop sharing first so I can get there. All right. Now I'm gonna make it big enough so we can see it.
Okay, so a little backstory to this. Thank you to Carbon Star, who's present, Lady Dancing Sun. They've been working with me and tweaking it, doing some editing. We've been working with this. Chief Pontiac had the ability to look it over, and I was shocked that he only had 2 comments. And so, this is critical. Language is critical because we know that their words are spelling and they cast spells with words. So we had to be uh, just very careful in what it is we say, how we say it, so that it doesn't seem combatant or anything. It says exactly what it needs to. And so thanking the Most High for all of the hands that have touched and or assisted with this. As I've written it from the heart. As those who've helped me, they've helped me from the heart and the spirit of it. And we'd like for you all to share with us and witness with us in this moment. Preamble, declaration and notice for accord, notice of trust existence, and notice of express trust. In the honorable name of Her Majesty Empress Shaka Rare Bird Nagrat of the Shalagi Cherokee Sovereign Nation State and its territories of Turtle Island, and in concert with esteemed sovereign signatories worldwide, she extends to you this missive with profound reverence. This accord serves as an invitation to delve into the depths of mutual resonance, fostering support and collaborative action in our shared endeavors to resolve matters of grave concerns of true claims to tribal lands. Our paramount aspiration is the manifestation of a harmonious coexistence and peaceful resonance among all beings who dwell upon, within, and surrounding the venerable land before settlers came, known as the Greater Turtle Island. As the self-governing Shalagi Cherokee sovereign nation state and its territories of Turtle Island, we have borne witness to the nascent flame of hope, kindled by an unwavering dedication to the cause of peace. It is my fervent desire that you join us in this sacred quest, lending your wisdom and strength to the realization of our collective vision. Together, may we usher in a new era of unprecedented accord, where every voice is heard and every spirit honored in the grand tapestry of our intertwined destinies. Despite the relentless tempests and beguiling siren songs born upon the lands of time, we have nurtured the delicate flame of hope for peace, shielding it from extinction. Our nation's gaze has remained fixed upon the beacon of tranquility, its pulse echoing the very heartbeat of Mother Earth herself. This profound yearning for harmony swells within the bosoms of all her children, an ineffable longing that binds us in common purpose. I don't know if you can stand and do that, Empress. Like tributaries converging into a mighty river, our collective aspirations flow towards that universal wellspring of peace. It is a current that runs deep and true, transcending the tumultuous surface of history, ever seeking the vast calm sea of mutual understanding and respect. The lamentable diminishment of the autochthonous origin American Indian copper-colored peoples and our ancestral domains can be ascribed to a tragic constellation of circumstances, each a dark star in the firmament of their tribulations. This somber tapestry is woven with threads of conflict and carnage, of duplicity and dispossession, of forceful occupation, and mostly coerced relinquishment. The fabric of our sovereignty was rent asunder by the divisive blade of partition lands, while the lifeblood of our territories, the pristine waters, was too often diverted or submerged beneath man-made delusions. This relentless tide of adversity bore the imprimatur of manifold actors the long arm of the United States government reached deep into native soil, while its benediction anointed the iron horses of the railroad. The penetrating drill of oil, precious mineral extractions, and the rapacious saws of lumber, barons secreting the gems of our land into anonymity. In the shadow of these behemoths, passage came the pioneers and colonists who, be it through conscious intent or unwitting complicity, became the agents of a monumental dispossession. And forever prowling the periphery, galvanized by the tumultuous zeitgeist, were those of more ignoble pursuits, marauders who wrestled by brute force the scant riches that lingered. In this cataclysm, a tapestry of civilizations, vibrant with heritage and inextricably woven into the fabric of the earth, was rent asunder, as myriad threads cast to the far corners by the tempest of an implacable surge, erroneously heralded as advancement. The elegy of their disinheritance is inscribed not upon marble edifices, but in the haunting vacancy where once their steps marked the soil they cherished as their ancestral domain. Throughout the epic of British sovereignty, the crown at one time acknowledged the ancient people's intrinsic claim to their ancestral domains. However, in the aftermath of the American Revolution, our pains and claims fell upon deaf ears, and our ancient title was purportedly upheld by the fledgling republic through executive decrees, negotiated accords, and legislative acts. Vast swaths of the nascent nation's territory were involuntarily relinquished land by the First Nations to the federal government. Involuntarily relinquished land by the First Nations to the federal government through these false covenants, often under duress or misapprehension. It challenges the bounds of reason to conceive that any indigenous nation would voluntarily surrender their hallowed matrimonial lands held more sacrosanct than mortality itself, and the wellspring of their spiritual, sacred, and corporeal sustenance. These treaties, lamentably, were often transgressed with unseemly haste following their inception, serving as mere pretexts for the further usurpation of native dominions. In the annals of history, it is evident that the Shalagi, originally known as Ani Yonawiya, but known to many as the Cherokee, steadfastly maintained their sovereignty, never abdicating nor ceding their inherent rights to their ancestral realms. The proclamation. Let it be known henceforth in perpetuity that the quintessence of the Shalagi Cherokee sovereign nation state and its territories of Turtle Island, their venerable culture and viable sovereignty, mellifluous language, and hallowed lands finds its living embodiment and sacrosanct refuge within the person who was once known as Sharon Victoria Wilson X. Rel, by the immutable laws of lineage and the ineffable decrees of destiny. Through her vein courses the unadulterated lifeblood of this original nation, and for she stands as the last scion of pure indigenous autochthon origin, original American Indian descent, to ascend to the matriarchal throne of the Shalagi Cherokee sovereign nation state and its territories of Turtle Island. It is by virtue of this exalted birthright that the mantle of restoration shall descend upon her regal shoulders. As surely as rivers seek the sea and seasons yield one to another in their appointed time, so too shall the natural order of the cosmos bring about the resurgence of her people's dominion. Under her beneficent aegis, the proud Shalagi Cherokee sovereign nation state and its territories of Turtle Island shall reclaim its historical territories and see its self-governance rise anew, like the phoenix from the ashes of history. Thus it is ordained, thus shall it be manifest, a testament to the enduring spirit of a people whose roots run as deep as the ancient mountains and whose aspirations soar as high as the eternal sky. Be it hereby proclaimed and so solemnly declared by her that the perpetuation and flourishing of the esteemed peoples constituting the Cherokee sovereign nation state and its territories of Turtle Island and all their manifold aspects rests inextricably upon the formal acknowledgement of their sovereign status. This honorable recognition must be bestowed by the eminent tribunals of global jurisprudence, namely the Permanent Court of International Justice, often known as the World Court, the Sovereign Court of International Justice, the official court for the nation-state government, and the Sovereign International Criminal Court. It is imperative that this acknowledgement be duly registered and certified through the offices of the First Republic Registrar, thereby affirming the Cherokee sovereign nation state and its territories of Turtle Island stature as a certified matriarchal sovereign state entity governed by the head of state, seated within the people of the Cherokee Nation Pure Trust Foundation. This certification shall stand as an incontrovertible testament to their identity as the sovereign indigenous aboriginal native autochthon Americans, the primordial stewards of their ancestral domains. Only through such solemn ratification can the rich tapestry of the Cherokee heritage be safeguarded for posterity, ensuring that the vibrant threads of their culture, traditions, and aspiration continue to be woven into the grand pageant of human civilization. Let this declaration resound through the corridors of power and echo in chambers of justice, that all may comprehend the gravity and urgency of this most noble cause. The declaration of trust existence and its manifest expression. Be it known to all concerned parties, the people of the Cherokee Nation Pure Trust Foundation, as embodied and represented by creation of said trust, duly registered, hereby asserts and invokes the fundamental, inalienable rights bestowed by natural law and intrinsically bound to her personage through said trust. These said rights, self-preserving in nature, encompass the sovereign prerogative to exist in a state of peace and harmony with other sovereign entities across the globe, balanced in perfect equity upon the scales of Lady Justice. It has come to the cognizance of Her Royal Majesty that the Land Titles and Records Office, LTRO, bears the federal obligation to render accurate, timely, and cost-effective federal land titles services to individual Indians and tribes. In fulfillment of this mandate, the LTRO maintains custodianship over title documents pertaining to lands held in trust by the United States or subject to restricted status for individual Indians or tribes, hereinafter referred to as Indian land. Furthermore, it has been ascertained that in accordance with LTRO protocols, the Bureau of Indian Affairs, BIA, is entrusted with the preservation and stewardship of these title records. This solemn duty finds its legal foundation in a corpus of statutory provisions, including but not limited to 25 U.S.C. 5964, Stat 1262, 34 Stat 137, 35 Stat 312, and 38 Stat 582598. The articulation of this knowledge serves as a cornerstone in the edifice of our rightful claims and underscores the gravity of our position and matters pertaining to land, trustship, and sovereignty. Let this notice stand as an immutable testament to the existence and expression of our trust, resonating through the chambers of governance and echoing in the halls of justice. The restoration of our heritage. In accordance with the very laws established by those settled upon our lands, we assert our lawful right to reclaim our ancestral domains. The principles of justice, universally acknowledged, dictate that when one party has been dispossessed of their land through unlawful means, the path to righteousness lies in the restoration of that which was taken. We observe with hopeful hearts the recent pledges made to our matriarchs and tribal peoples. They have been offered the prospect of regaining their historic lands in exchange for foregoing compensation from the Indian Claims Commission. This gesture, while long overdue, does not illuminate a potential avenue for equitable resolution. It is our profound belief that the moral stature and international repute of those who now govern these lands would be greatly elevated by a voluntary and proactive redress of this long-standing injustice. Such an act of magnanimity would resonate far beyond our borders, serving as a beacon of ethical governance. The first peoples of this land have demonstrated remarkable patience and forbearance in the face of protracted adversity. However, even the deepest wellspring of patience are not inexhaustible. We have reached a juncture where further delay in addressing these critical matters has become untenable. Therefore, we stand united in our unwavering commitment to the peaceful yet resolute pursuit of our rightful heritage. Our call is not one of confrontation, but of reconciliation, not of discord, but of harmony. We extend our hands in a spirit of cooperation, seeking a dialogue that will lead to mutual understanding and ultimately to the fair and just restitution of our ancestral lands. Let us together forge a new chapter in our shared history, one marked by respect, reconciliation, and the righting of historical wrongs. Demand is hereby made in respect to all, to include but not limit all monies, land, in-ground and above-ground assets, titles, trust or fiduciary accounts, or other property interests conveyed, transferred, escheated, assigned, lien, delivered, or paid to, include but not limit the United States of America, U.S.A. Land titles of record, LTRO, Bureau of Indian Offenses, alien property custodians, held in trust or seized by them, him, her, and or United States of America, U.S.A. Bureau of Indian Offenses, alien property custodians, or any appointed registrar, receiver, successor, and assigns, if any, seized by them, him, or her, thereunder, and held by the United States of America, U.S.A. LTRO, Bureau of Indian Offenses, alien property custodians, Department of Interior is agents or assigned, or if the president determined that the owner thereof at such time of such money or property was required to be conveyed to these bureau or agencies or agents or assigns, shall cooperate in the conveyance of title, whereby Her Royal Highness Empress Shaka Rare Bird Nagrat, head of state, demands the release of all monies, land, and ground and above ground assets, titles, or other properties, interest conveyed, transferred, escheated, assigned, lien, delivered, or paid, shall be conveyed to the custody of the trustees designated in the sovereign certificate of title. From the annals of history and the immutable truths laid bare before us, our path forward emerges with the unstoppable force of ancient rivers carving their way through timeless valleys. Thus we solemnly declare this hallowed land, sanctified by the footsteps of countless generations, shall be ours once more. In this watershed moment, we raise our voices in unified proclamation on behalf of all ancient peoples, the first children of this soil. We hereby assert that from this day hence, we shall exercise our rightful sovereignty. Our dominion shall extend across the verdant expanses and azure waters of this land, our ancestral home. Let it be known that we reclaim with unwavering resolve all rights of stewardship and habitation over this sacred earth, this land cradled in legend and sustained by the sacrifices of our forebears, awakens once more to the dreams of its first people. From these facts, historical records, and truth, she has presented herein, it follows as inexorably as the mighty rivers that traverse our lands, she must, and hereby does declare that that our land is ours once more. As an initial step, she proclaims on behalf of all autochthonous origin American, Indian, copper-colored peoples and tribes that from this day forward we shall all exercise sovereignty, self-governance, dominion, and all rights of use and possession over Turtle Island, the land of our ancestors. Within 60 days from receipt of this notice, you must release to include but not limit in respect to all, to include but not limit all monies, titles, trusts, or fiduciary accounts, or other properties conveyed, transferred, escheated, assigned, lien, delivered, or paid to the BIA or the alien property custodian held in trust is seized by him or her and or appointed register, receiver, successor, and assigned, if seized by him, her, hereunder, and held by the Department of Interior of the alien property custodian or any appointed register, receiver, assigns and assigned, successor, if any seized by them, him, her, hereunder, and held by the United States of America, U period, S period, A period, Bureau of Indian Affairs, Alien Property Custodians, Department of Interior, its agents or assigned. Within 60 days from receipt of this accord, you must convey to the trustees of the people of the Shalagi Nation Pure Trust Foundation the appurtenant records of title, document, certificate of title, and all trust and fiduciary accounts. The acceptance of these claims is refutable evidence of her existence and restoration of tribal lands is hereby demanded and affirmed. And of course, return the inquiries to primordial autochthonous law firm. I yield.
Affirm,
We got one
reaffirm,
last thing, Empress.
It is done.
it is
It
done.
is honored. Ashe.
Ashe.
So be it.
So
So, Empress, I sent you a part 6 in the email. This is the grandfather clause jurisdictionally competent order of the war chief to read into the public domain Article 77 of the Iroquois Constitution, which was read into the record on Young Elders YouTube channel last year. And we want to read it one more time for the newcomers to know what it says and what effect it had or what benefit it had for us. So first we're going to show y'all the book cover. You can see where they written down the oral constitution of the Iroquois was codified and written down. If you go to the next page, Empress, is Article 77 in the Iroquois Constitution of the Five Nations. I'm gonna read it from my phone, but you could blow it up so they could see it.
Were you starting at 70?
77.
Okay.
All right. Now this is a document that's never been overruled in law, which grandfathers it in the oral tradition, because it stands as a testament of our elders' foresight for us to be able to serve the interim government with a eviction notice. So I'm gonna read it so y'all can, so that the people can know where we deriving our tribal rights from is already written down in a document on the land from people of the land. So Article 77 says, when the lords of the confederation or the confederacy decide to admit a foreign nation and an adoption is made, the Lord shall inform the adopted nation that its admission is only temporary. Remember, George Washington challenge was a 200-year challenge to educate ourselves out of the conditions under harsh treatment and malice. They shall also say to the nation that it must never try to control, to interfere with, or to injure the five nations, nor disregard the great peace or any of its rules or customs. This in no way should they cause disturbance or injury. They did it all. Then should the adopted nation disregard these injunctions, as America has been found guilty of disregarding. Their adoption shall be annulled, and they shall be expelled. Can you scroll down so I can read the whole last paragraph? Right. Now, this is the procedure by which Article 77 is activated under the Confederacy. It says the expulsion shall be in the following manner. The council shall appoint one of their war chiefs to convey the message of annulment, and he shall say, you, the United States interim corporate government legal fiction, listen to me while I speak. That means following the oral tradition. I am here to inform you again of the will of the Five Nations Council. It was clearly made known to you at a former time. Now the lords of the Five Nations have decided to expel you and cast you out. We disown you now, the United States Corporation, and annul your adoption, United States constitutional government. Therefore, you must look for a path in which to go and lead away all of your people. It was you, not we, who committed wrong and caused the sentence of annulment. So then, go your way, depart from the territory of the Five Nations and from the Confederacy. We read this again as a reiteration of the notice of eviction served on the corporate legal fiction that has been masquerading in interim capacity in a de facto status as the government of the lands of Turtle Island, belligerent to all clans organic to the land. And from here, I have to surrender it to Empress Rarebird to determine if I have fulfilled the function of the war chief and competently read into the public domain Article 77, annulling any contracts, treaties, or agreements made with a fraudulent entity known as the Corporation of the United States of America, the United States Corporation, USA, Inc., and all other derivatives of the foresaid government, and the war chief surrenders to the peace chief for final determination if the burden has been met.
Let it be known that the burden has been met. All challenges are null and void. There is no challenge to what has been said and done today. It is in accordance to our oral tradition that we hereby serve the notice of the courts, and it's been read and accepted into our journal as law. It is so, and so it is.
Okay, so Empress, it's up to you if you're going to do a Q&A and I answer any questions where anybody may have any confusion.
I will open up for the next maybe 10 minutes or so, and then we're
That's on
gonna
your
close.
it's on your count. It's on your count. However you want to do it, that's where we're going. 10
All
minutes,
right.
2 minutes.
All right. So I don't know. We got the Zoom folks in the Zoom, and then we have folks on YouTube. So are you managing or looking at the YouTube questions? Are there any questions on YouTube or either on the Zoom, any from the folks on Zoom?
Can we allow the ones on Zoom first so that I could be looking on the,
Okay,
so I
that's
did
fine.
it where they can unmute themselves.
Okay. You all can unmute yourselves if you would hold your hand up so we can see. Okay, no one has their hand up in the I guess we did a great job, and that people knowing what time it is.
Okay,
And this,
so the request is at this point for all of the people watching, if you agree and you have a social media platform, is to share this information so that as many people, we need as many tribes, organic people to the land as possible to see this as soon as possible. It's going to have what's called 100 monkey effect to critical mass of awareness to government response to the tribal redemption process being fulfilled and having met its burden of proof as to who we are and where we from, and that we came back for everything they owe. And it just so happened they owe us everything.
So we do have a question on YouTube, Chief Pontiac asking what's next.
So next is the ball is in the Department of Defense court. They have to contact Empress. She is the head of state. They have to provide her with military security because she's the head of state. She got to be with the same provisions that Donald Trump or Camel Toe Harris or Sleepy Joe Biden, anything benefit they have, she is privy to now because we have properly done our due diligence in fulfilling our tribal duties, and that all other tribal leaders are invited to reach out to the Shalagi Cherokee Nation to show their support in restoring Turtle Island and to assert their local jurisdictional claim for their tribal governments. That's what's next.
and
But
just let
sharing
it
of this
be.
information is critical.
So please, everyone that is listening, that we encourage you to get the word out, because now we're getting ready to do the things that we have had rights to do all along, but we've had so much blockage from the corporation in commerce and in our freedoms to roam on the land freely without them taking us to jail because we ain't got their license or we don't have their tags. Now, when they now do something to us from this point on, it's an act of war.
Yeah, we're moving from wartime to peacetime.
Yeah. And we've always
So
been at peace. It's not us. They've been secretly at war with us. And
yeah,
that the secret war has been spiritually, mentally, as well as physically against us. And if you don't know that all this has been going on from the time that you arrived here as a baby, and and all that has gone on over the years in secrecy, um you will see why we had to end this in a peaceful manner, because what they really was banking on was that we was going to start retaliating and fighting them. Well, we can't fight them when we're trying to end a war that they waged against us. We didn't wage war against them. And I want to thank you, Jaguar, for capturing the significance of what you done for us as a nation of people me personally as the Empress, you couldn't have put it in a more eloquent way of it being peacetime and my exercising my matriarchal birthright on this land as head of state, uh, to now restore us back to our land and our rights to flourish on our own land without the interference of this corporation called the United States of America, and all the US dot and all that stuff that they have come in many hats, but with the same agenda that keep us from exercising our right and setting up a system that was not friendly to us. So thank you, Jaguar, from the depths of my heart, that I thank you for capturing this and writing this from the perspective of peace.
And
Thank you.
thank you. And I thank those that contributed to it as well, in spirit and in love and in the eyes. It took many eyes on this. And thank you, Carbon Star,
Yeah.
Lady Danson's son. Anyone else that has assisted in any small way. This has been a monumental mission from the onset, from literally our first meeting.
Yeah.
And Ashe, it is done.
It is done. If nothing else came out of this, I've got some great people around me now. Getting things done. Vinay and Lady Dancing Son were a gift from the universe from the universe to me, from me to you, Jaguar. And Chief Pontiac, you see how that just came, my son just came in and just just everything just came together at the perfect time. This couldn't have been no better planned time if we had planned it. But the universe just made sure that the timing of everything as relates to us as indigenous people is restored back our sovereignty and become aware of our sovereignty, because that's part of not all of the problem with the people is they're not aware of the word sovereign and what that means. I've only heard it prior before my process, that I heard that God is a sovereign God. And I never equated sovereign. I didn't say sovereign citizen. But just being sovereign alone, God is sovereign alone. And the biggest secret that is being kept in the Masonic lodges is the melanated woman is God.
She's
That's the
called
secret.
the she's the one who the shrine was made for, and they call her the Black Madonna.
That's right.
And I'm her baby boy.
He is my baby boy, believe it or not.
So
We've
look,
had,
people asking, what if they don't comply? That's not our responsibility to make them comply. They got these ships. I don't like talking about these ships because people without enough earth problems. But they got these ships that the Pentagon been watching. Do you need me to send you the receipts for the ships that the Pentagon been watching?
you can, and I can display it. That's why they ain't been able to touch us. We're protected while we
They know
get
they
this
there.
work done.
They know they there. I'm about to show you. I'm about to send you this. We're gonna go over it. Um, you can talk in the meantime, Empress.
Okay. Well, Carbon Star and Lady Dancing, she's not on tonight. I wish we had a picture of her. But nevertheless, um, the High Council of the the level of gratitude of your commitment and Lady Dancing Son's commitment to help me to get this done. And I couldn't thank you both enough for being the set of eyes that Jaguar needed to complete this task. You all made it very clear to me that you're in the corner of what is right in the light. So thank you.
Okay. You should have they should be coming any second now, Empress. Part 7.
Got it.
These are headlines taken from different news agencies concerning their awareness of the ships. Scroll to see what it say? Pentagram officials speculate alien mothership could send many probes to Earth. I've been telling the people that's been watching me for over 2 years, they've been hearing me say that anytime these ships get close before they land on the surface, they send drones out to inspect where they're going to be going. You can go to the next one. That's March 27th, by the way. This one, if you blow it up, you can see the date. That's March 9th. Pentagon UFO say alien mothership in our solar system possible. Right. That was last year, March 9th, 2023. Right. Next one. Alien mothership lurking in our solar system could be watching us with tiny probes, Pentagon officials say. March 25th, 2023. They've been sitting there for a year and a half. Alien UFO not being hidden from public, really. New Pentagon report. The report seeks to put to rest the notion that the Pentagon or anyone else or working for the U.S. government is hiding anything when it comes to visits from outer space. That's March 10 of this year. Pentagon officials suggest alien mothership in our solar system could send many probes to Earth. I think we read that one already.
Okay.
That's March 14th, 2023. They've been sitting there watching them, watching us. So the Pentagon, Harvard, and the Vatican have been sitting there watching this ship, watching us, and they've been trying to stop us or them from communicating with us. And they've been making a presence known all over the world in the last year as soft disclosure to prep the people's psyche for seeing this massive ship. I got a picture of it. You want to play the ship?
Yes.
I show them the ship now.
Yeah.
But they had a massive ship. And it's been being spotted all over the world.
Let me know when you sent it.
Okay. That's won't let me send it. I'm saying it's too long.
Mm.
Let me try to clip it.
In the meantime, are there any other questions in the chat or on YouTube, Sister
Yeah,
Vinay?
sure. There was one that Chief Pontiac, I guess, could answer. It just said, do each tribe have different treaties and laws? So that was a question.
They have different customs that they practice that determine who they make treaties and what laws they make.
Right. Each tribe is self-governing, just as
Yeah.
you are self-governing. Right.
Can you speak more on that? Because I don't, I think that everyone needs to understand that it was never, government was never designed to preside over the people and usurp the people's right to self-govern and self-determination.
That's right. See, everybody be talking about their constitutional rights, but they are unaware of the fact that the Constitution is not for the people to govern the people. The Constitution was to govern the interim government and to tell them how they're supposed to treat the people that they have under their control.
Right.
Okay, another question is in, it says, how can tribes in Canada and the Caribbean get involved?
They gotta have their tribal leader send contact information to the Empress. All tribes is welcome. There's no tribe, even if you got 10 people in your tribe is welcome. There's no respecters of person, no big eyes, no little U's. This is actually a global effort. There's big mamas all over the world. It's just that the big mama over the big mamas here, because we got multiple big mamas on the land, or what we call female chiefs. And so they all are included. It's just that we are in the process of establishing communication between the clans so that this information can be shared and we can be on the same accord. Pun intended, accord.
Also, a lot of people don't realize that this patriarchal system, where the man is sitting at the helm, as we're learning, everything is upside down. That's upside down as well. And so mother representing the earth, that is the tribe. Your mother is the head of your family tribe as a clan, and then your relatives and whomever it is that you embrace as part of your clan, part of your nation state, becomes your nation that you can represent, that you can create what you say, things that govern yourselves and govern one another collectively. Those are the things you agree on. So when you talk about laws, laws are put in place when people need something to tell them what to do. But everything that we need to know as it relates to what to do, nature shows us first. There's nothing that we've learned as man that nature hasn't shown us. So that's from us watching uh, animals and how they intrinsically do things and how nature just begins to produce and so forth. Everything about it we see through nature, and that's what teaches us first. That's why a child is not supposed to go to a school. A child is not supposed to be in a concrete, confined space. A child is supposed to learn in the space in nature because Mother Nature is its first teacher and its teacher throughout life.
I say. And so the idea of this government is to give you back yourself so that you can self-govern. This government is not about trying to put an infrastructure together to take care of nobody. I'm telling you that right now, because mama ain't got enough breasts to feed all y'all. and enough milk in them to give to you. I'm just saying, is that you all have to change your way of thinking about a thing, about a matter that belong to mother. And mother is here to tell you that you must now grow up and be self-governing. That's what I'm about. I'm not about setting up nothing to bring everybody in and everybody live in one kumbaya and everybody complaining. I don't like over here. She got me all over here. Now we ain't got nothing. I ain't hearing none of that. I mean, I'm not hearing any of it. So I'm not going to put myself in a position for me to tell you I'm your government. No, I'm setting up the infrastructure of the government in the way it's supposed to be in the beginning was that we self-govern and we did our own self-determination on what was right and wrong for us as individually and personally. Your spirit is the one that governs you. So if you're thinking that I'm here to save you, I'm here to show you yourself so that you can save yourself and give you the tools that you need to save you from your thinking. Because I'm still trying to find out who they is and what they are. They did this and they did, and I want to know who they are is. If you could put it in the chat room or somebody put it on YouTube chat, tell me who is they?
They
Could it
are the
be,
black nobility.
could,
They are the
could,
black hand.
The
I'm
black
saying,
I tell you who they is. They
also
32 degree Scottish Rite Freemasons who left feds in the George Washington Memorial. So when you ask that question, I can tell you how to find out who they is, where they went, where they at, what they did. That's who they is. All of their feds has got their names on it. They right there in the George Washington Masonic Memorial. Them the ones who wrote it. And then you can trace history to know who was they um cat's paws performing the function that they laid down for them to follow to keep us oppressed. That's who they is.
that's
Call
it.
themselves Moorish Zionist Jews, the original Hebrew Israelites, the fake Jews, the real Jews, the Jewish contingents. So what y'all looking at are police across the U.S. giving new UFO handbook as the sky-worn craft pose significant safety risks. So I'm not just telling y'all this to be telling it to you because you need to know that these bootleg slave patrols have also been alerted to the presence of the ships. The next one is a little short video clip of a ship. They sure don't want them to see that ship, do they, Empress?
no, they don't. Claire. Let's see. They don't want us to see it.
I'm gonna try to send it to you again
Okay.
by itself.
There it is. Ooh.
That's called a jumper ship. It's a shuttle that go from the main ship to wherever they sending it out to.
Mm.
Undenied.
So if they are in non-compliance, y'all gonna see these ships land and enforce galactic law. You can't, when people exercising their free will right to assert their rights in the public without nefarious methods nor belligerent means, coming in peace, telling the truth, standing in the position of right. They will intervene if the military doesn't. They've been notified. They watching this just like everybody else that's watching us right now. The government is watching. They know what this is. They not naive. They've played dumb a lot, but they know what's going on. And they're using the stage show to prove that they know what's going on. So when they show you Camel Toe Harris, right, Hawk Tua Chief, Horror Babylon, they telling you that the Horror Babylon has to fall for the proper matriarchy to arise. So she had to fail miserably. 45 then becomes 47. On the flip, that's a GD flip, 7-4, to a BOS, Brothers of the Struggle, off of a SOS, Sisters of the Struggle, distress call. But they called me, I answered, and I came to resolve the matter. Matter is resolved. It's just that, is it enough of us aware and enough of us willing to do the work necessary to properly educate our children and protect our children from these pedophile priest cults? Most of them gonna be gone, but we gonna have some stragglers that some real good men gonna have to do some real bad things to some real evil people, and y'all can't be offended by it when it happens.
Mm.
And we tired of feeding our babies to the beasts with no remorse, right? We have too many mothers crying at the blood sight of children laying in the streets dead over some shenanigans that the government created.
Mm-hmm.
So there will be enforcement. It's just what level of enforcement are we going to require? The people that's on them ships is not like us. You will not stop them with an AK-47, with an SK. You will not stop them with a 38, a 45, a 357. That will do you no good. Throw your hand grenades if you got them, and it will do you no good. They are impervious to what you call projectile weaponry. They use energy-based weapons. In other words, when they zap your ass, they gonna turn you into a pile of dust where you stand. So there is enforcement, but we trying to avoid bloody warfare at the close of the age, and we trying to bring the new world into order under the peaceful regime of the matriarchy. And the daughters of the earth are supported by what's known as the Galactic Council. The Galactic Council and the United States Space Force is working together. So even if they don't want to comply, it's too late. There's nothing they can do about it. The gig is up, and we back for everything they owe. And this is the great atonement of man, to relieve us of the oppressive energies created by the great debauchery, by manipulating human genetics and undermining the rights of people to live in love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, and to subjugate people for financial gain and to sacrifice the righteous for the indignation of the wicked. We done with that. That chapter closes now. the chapter of misery. We don't want the chapter of misery no more. We want heaven on earth at this point. Right? And so I do my due diligence to present to Empress the close of the war as a war chief talking to the peace chief in order for us to live in that love energy. Bruh, y'all don't know. When these women is in their divine feminine, it is not the same as them riding BITCHs. It's not the same. All these guys are scared of the matriarchy. That's because they got no good dirt up their sleeve and it won't fly. It will not work. All of the shenanigans is over with. All that stuff they was doing to dominate and try to control women out of an ego-centered agenda, there ain't no more of that. Y'all gonna come together in true love or y'all gonna leave each other be. That's the way it's gonna be under the matriarchy. And people gonna have the right to their best life. And we have to start educating our children on how to create their best life. Harness their internal powers of manifestation in order for us to create a golden age. This is what we're here for. Otherwise, they didn't have to conjure me up for this if we ain't gonna do what's right. Because I don't want to be part of the BS. I don't want to be a part of nobody's child being sacrificed, nobody's child being used as a sex child. I don't want to be part of none of that. I don't want to be part of a great rape campaign to subjugate the divine feminine with trauma scars. I don't want to be part of this pedophile priest cult of cannibals. I don't want to be eating children. I don't want that part of my agenda. So I'm doing everything I can to protect as many as I can by telling the truth, standing in the position of right. And I don't have nothing else to say. It's going to play out how it's going to play out, and they going to comply whether they want to or not, because enforcement is here. And with that, I yield, Empress.
But there ain't nothing more to say about that. What's his name? Oh, Forrest Gump. Well, there is nothing else to say about that, is it? All right. Uh, I want to give an opportunity for Jaguar and Carbon Star to say they last little bit of words of wisdom, and then I will close.
Look, I guess Jaguar's like, I'm good.
Okay.
But love and light to everyone. And I really don't have much to say. This is just such an exciting time to be here. And we have a lot of work to do, but as I see it, it won't be hard. Won't be hard. I'm not gonna put that out into the universe. It's such a wonderful time. And if you just come together, as Chief Pontiac was saying, find your tribe, just get yourself together, get the work done, and like Empress said, ain't nobody coming to save you, so save yourself. Save yourself. Save yourself.
One last thing, Empress.
Yes, sir.
This has been a war correspondence on behalf of the war correspondent Dale Jones and the Minister of War, the Honorable George Jackson, Black Guerrilla Family, and the Minister of Information, Huey P. Newton, for the Black Panther Party for Self-Defense, and the remembering of Brother John Africa, the Philadelphia movement, and remembrance of all of the brothers that fell in the struggle, and in honor of all of the chiefs currently held as political prisoners that we have been misled into believe that they was nefarious people so they could be sacrificed for the wicked to continue doing wickedness. Peace to Jeff Ford, Chief Malik Angel Bay, Chief Larry Hoover, Chief Benny Lee, and all of the other chiefs just waiting to be properly restored back to their positions in the community to organize and rebuild us back to what we was before we was invaded, subjugated, and turned against each other. With that, I yield.
Thank you.
I wanted to just thank some of the team that I work with through the university and the law advocates. Thank them for the support that they give me anytime I bring something to them. They're there to assist, and a lot of them are on the call tonight. Thank you guys for showing up and supporting all of what I do. What I do is on behalf of everyone, the people. We're all here to service the people, and that is our ultimate ministry, the service of one another. Don't feel that because you hear certain words that this excludes you. What Empress is doing on behalf of all ancient people, all tribes, and so forth. We just have to let them see that we know we've awakened, and we have. So don't let seeds of doubt plant, oh, this is not this. Don't let that happen. Move with your spirit and your heart and move from that point forward, and don't look back. And I yield.
Thank you. I just want to remind everybody that we are in about 2 weeks on November the 3rd, we will start our class of 2025, 12 Steps to Personal Sovereignty. And that is a 9-month process. And then another few months of doing your 12 step of passing it on. So if you have not joined us, you've got about another week or two before we get ready to take off for the classes. And so I want everybody to govern yourself accordingly. If anybody, I'm going to give you two telltale signs that you need to run. Anybody charging you some money to get some nationality papers, get some freedom papers, and any other kind of papers, run. You run like Forrest Gump. Run. Because they're only trying to fleece you for monies so that they can continue their little shenanigans. Okay? So if you run into some folks and they lure you in and they tell you, that, well, it's going to cost you $15,000 to get all this stuff and this and that and the third, that's not where divine feminine lie within that realm. It doesn't. The second telltale sign is the original system was matriarch. So if you see him and he ahead of something, run! Because it was the women that were the nurturers of the tribal nations. The men were the protectors. They wasn't in charge. So you men out there that still think you're going to be in charge and still making a mess of stuff, stop it. We are the natural nurturers. We bought them in. We bought the children in, the coochie. And we have to rule over its people because they don't have anybody to nurture them. So they're going to have the mothers to do it. You can't do it. As much as I want to say a possibility that you can do it, you can't. It's not natural. You got to go back to nurture nature. Nature nurtures. And you cannot nurture a nation. That's the truth. when a child gets hurt, something happens to, who do they call on? Mama. You don't have calling daddy. It's mama. I don't care if daddy's sitting right beside mama, they're going to right to mama because that's the natural order of things. So just step back, allow the women, not just any woman, but a woman that is conscious and that is full aware of her divinity. If you just step back and allow that to happen, things can straighten itself out. But I know I've been dealing with you stiff-necked men, folks. And I'm going to call you out. That system that you think you're going to hold on to oppress us, you better think again. Because you'll go down with it. And I won't care that you do. You don't want to extend your hand to help us. It's okay. We see you. And it's still okay because we still gonna get it done. Because the one thing about us women, we very resourceful. And we'll get some stuff done. And we have been getting it done. And we've had some good men to help us too. Because they understand the mission. So as the ruling matriarch, you don't have the allodial title. You don't have the special deed of trust. You wasn't handed none of it. So I don't know why you think you're going to run it. It's not yours to run. It's ours. So as you all give out the information and send people to the YouTube so that they can see what happened tonight and watch what unfolds starting tomorrow. Really, today it's set in motion. So I'm sitting my seat because it's the seat for me to sit in so that we can get some stuff done. I'm not here to be praised on and this and that and the third. That's not why I am here. I am here to do the work of the people, for the people. All right. Well, I bid everybody a good night, and I trust that you all can sleep a little easier knowing that we have officially have made our announcement. So watch what happens from this point on out. Love and light to everybody.
Love and light.
Love and light, everyone.
Love and light.
All right. Let me end this. Give me a second, sweetie.
You want me to start the last week, the last